shopping bags. I want to bring wildflower seeds. And Ellen said, Ginny's not going to like that. So we brought her a shopping bag. And we put a bottle of her favorite scotch in it. Take it away, darling.
Well, and I'm supposed to speak now?
Have some scotch.
Well, geez, really, thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, NFCB board. Thank you, everybody who sent in your comments. This was not part of my plan to get up here and feel this. So I'm going to try to pull myself together because I have a few things I want to say. I'm so pleased to get this award, and I didn't know Mike Bader, but I did participate in choosing the previous recipients of the award, and so I have a little idea of the kind of thinking that goes into it, and I'm really deeply honored to hold this award in his name and to stand with all the previous recipients, two of whom I think, at least two are here today, John Kriegler and Brian DeShazer. I have to say it's a little strange to be standing up here not talking about sound exchange reporting or workshop changes. But rest assured, I'm happy to be not talking about sound exchange reporting or workshop changes. In the spirit of Michael Bader and his fierce support for people who try to change the world, I want to talk about 5 things that I have learned as I have tried to change the world. And it's interesting to me that I have been hearing parts of this from so many of the speakers in the sessions that I've attended in the last 2 days. So I think these are not unique to me. So here we go. Number 1, we have no idea what we're doing, and that's a good thing. I've been using a quote from Nelson Mandela as part of my email signature for a while, and what it says is, it always seems impossible until it's done. In the 70s, I started a women's record company, and I often said that if I had had any idea what that entailed, I never would have done it, because I would have thought it was impossible. Luckily, I had no idea what was involved. It seems my whole life I have done work that nobody really taught me how to do. I started a record company, we created a record distribution network, I produced concerts, live national radio broadcasts, program changes at a Pacifica station, and conferences. And often in the middle of some of this work, whatever it was, I would step back for a minute and I would kind of freak out a little bit because it would occur to me that I actually didn't know how to do what I was doing. Have any of you ever had that feeling? I thought so, okay. And yet, we figure it out. We get it done. And I think it's because we know how to step out of our own reality and live in that discomfort, because we see ourselves as part of something bigger, and because we have dreams. We have to have dreams, and we have to believe in our dreams. We have to have a vision of what we're trying to create or achieve. It's very easy to know what we're against, what we don't like, but that just doesn't get us very far. To know what we want, and to want it with such passion and determination, then the question is, how do we get there? And often, we make it up as we go along. That means we have to be willing to take big risks and make big mistakes. We have to find or create a culture that supports smart mistakes. There isn't room for stupid mistakes, like, not filing your biennial ownership reports on time. And now we know so much about best practices for everything that you could think that there's no room for dreaming, but I think that's wrong. Best practices are important. They are standards and they're benchmarks, and of course we want to hit those marks, and we want to operate within the framework of best practices. But if you get up in the morning and the best that you can think about is best practices, I think you should go on retreat, or whatever you do to get back in touch with your vision, with your dream. Number 2, intention is important, but impact is what really matters. I live in a racially mixed neighborhood in Oakland, California, and for the last couple of years we've had a lot of home break-ins and robberies. We have a number of neighborhood listservs, and I started to notice some pretty overt racial profiling on the listservs. And after the Trayvon Martin verdict came down, I felt like I had to address this in some way. And so I sent an invitation out to via the listservs and said, does anybody want to talk about this? And for the last 9 months or so, there's been an ever-expanding group of neighbors who have been meeting and listening to each other and coming up with strategies to make our neighborhood safer for everyone. And that means safe from crime and also safe from racial profiling. We've also had a fair amount of backlash, and it usually goes something like this. I don't have a racist bone in my body, so I cannot be doing racial profiling. I'm sure you've either heard that or felt it. And I don't want to, we could, but we're not going to get into a discussion about race. But I think this comment is typical in a lot of situations. We hear it in our personal relationships. We hear it among politicians. We hear it in the government. We hear it in community radio stations. It's a separation of intention from impact, and an assumption that if the intention behind your words and your actions was good, then somehow you're not really responsible for the impact of those words and actions. And I don't think we can have real change unless impact is part of our thinking. Of course, since we don't always know what we're doing, we can't often foresee the impact. But we can imagine it, we can dream about it, and we can take responsibility for it. Number 3, nothing lasts forever, with the possible exception of on-air fund drives. There is a wonderful poem by James Dickey called Falling, and it's based on a true incident, which he completely exaggerated and made a poem out of, about a flight attendant who fell out of an airplane and was later found dead on the ground. It happened in the 70s. This poem is a metaphor for me, and it's a metaphor about life, because from the minute we're born, we're falling out of the airplane, and we're all going to end up dead on the ground. And so the question is, do we go screaming or do we fly? Probably we all do some of both. But all we have is now, and I would rather be flying. Number 4, forgiveness is very powerful, and in my experience, very easy to talk about and not so easy to do. When Sally told me that the board wanted to give me the Bader Award, I had to do some major work before I could accept it with an open heart. But I'll tell you, holding on to anger and hurt feelings, no matter how righteous they may seem, is like wearing a ball and chain. The Dalai Lama, who surely has more grievances towards the government of China than I have towards the people that I have grievances towards, said that to hold on to resentments creates an attachment between you and whoever is doing you wrong. But the only person who feels the pull of that attachment and the pain of that attachment in your gut is you. I think a lot of people are very comfortable seeing themselves as victims. I think that's particularly true of the left. And it plays out at community radio stations in multiple ways that I'm sure you're very familiar with. It's destructive and it's wasteful and it gets us nowhere. It keeps us focused on the past instead of on what we can do today and our vision and our dreams for the future. Last but not least, number 5, we are all in this together. I've been doing a lot of consulting since I left NFCB. I've been working with radio stations and some music festivals and neighborhood groups. The name of my little company, which is me, is Justice and Community. That's really what I'm interested in. Anything that furthers justice, anything that builds community. I think these two concepts, justice and community, are deeply connected. I think every step that we have taken towards justice in the last 50 years, and really forever probably, has come because there was a strong community or communities that pushed, that forged the path, that demanded it. When we work together, when we find common ground, when we remember that we are all connected, we move to higher ground. A couple of years ago, I went to Decorah, Iowa to work with community station KPVL. And I found a little, outfit there, a little company there called Story People. I don't know, anybody familiar with Story People? Yeah, okay. And it's the work mostly of this guy named Brian Andreas, and he makes these little watercolor drawings, and each one of them has a story. And I just flipped over them. I was tempted to spend my vast fortune that I've accumulated working in community radio on buying everything in Decorah, Iowa. And I know I boosted the economy of Decorah considerably. But I only, in the end, I brought home one that really means everything to me. I keep it on my desk, I look at it every day, and I leave you with this story from the Story People. And hope I can get through this. Someday, the light will shine like a sun through my skin, and they will say, "What have you done with your life?" And though there are many moments I think I will remember, in the end, I will be proud to say, I was one of us. Thank you.